Matt Grosso here, creator of Xenoplicity and the queue system it runs on. Today's video just covering the topic of how to get into a new game. For a lot of people, they only play kind of like the one game they were introduced to for a long time before they'll ever branch out into something else. Unfortunately, a lot of people never branch out to anything else at all, and they just get stuck in this rut of only ever playing the one game that they started playing. And that's not good. That's not good for the hobby. That's not good for your game group. It leads to a lot of burnout. But more than that, if your frame of reference, if your perspective is limited to just one game out of all the games that are out there, you are doing yourself a disservice, both as a game master and as a player, because there's just so much more to the hobby than just what one game is going to deliver. It's a big hobby. And that's one of the reasons why it's such a pet peeve of mine when people try to make the term D&D synonymous with tabletop role-playing games. I hate those things being married at the hip. And in some weird way, with social media and often on YouTube, people just make these like synonymous terms. They're not. D&D is one game, and yeah, it may be the most popular, it may be the biggest, but that doesn't make it the best, it doesn't make it the only, and it doesn't make it the right way to do it, okay? It's just one game, okay? So there's a lot of different games out there that work very differently. But if you're going to get into a new game, if you're going to try to try something else out, so what should you do? How do you do that? The easiest thing to happen is that you get overwhelmed by the idea of it, and then you basically get paralyzed into never taking the first step or never actually getting into it. Maybe you buy the book, but then you never read it, or you buy it, but you just never play it. It just sits on your shelf, and that's a real danger. So you want to make sure you don't fall into that trap. So here's my suggestions. Number one, when you pick up a copy of the book, okay, get a copy of it, pick it up, flip through it, and get a sense of the rules. First things first. A lot of people will say, well, make a character first things. I disagree. First thing you want to do is turn to the rules section, and you want to skim the rules. Skim them in the sense that what you're looking for isn't any one, you're not looking to get a grasp on all the mechanics. What you are looking to do is get a sense of the spirit of the game. You get a sense of the way the system is designed to flow, how it's designed to work. What was the game designer going for? Okay. When you get that, when you understand that spirit of the game, you don't need to understand all the rules of a game to run a game. You just need to understand the spirit of it. And if you understand the spirit of a game, you can make judgment calls as needed, and they're going to be in keeping with the general sense of the game because you understand the spirit of what the game's going for, okay? So flip through the rules, get a sense of the game, get a sense of the spirit of what the game is supposed to be, and how it works in general, okay? Once you understand that, then go to the character creation section and make a character. Make a character for yourself. Check out the different options. Look over the different rules. A lot of times you will start to really understand how mechanics fit together once you see what a character looks like, okay? And so get a sense of the game, get a sense of the spirit that it's trying to get across, how the game will flow, then make a character. And then the next step is going to be to get familiar with any lore or setting material that comes with the game. Not all games come with lore. Not all games have a setting. Some of them, you just have to kind of make that up on your own. But there are plenty of games out there that have very rich lore settings. And so if that's the case, you need to at least be somewhat familiar with that. You don't need to be a master expert on all of it, but you need to know enough of it so where you can explain it to your table and get them at least a general sense, get them a window so where they can jump into this world, okay? And then if you can, the next step would be look online and see if there's some videos online of people playing the game. And I'm not a big fan of watching other people play out sessions, but it is helpful to see a game played before you try to run it. Okay, so that's not a bad idea. If there's a YouTube video of a game session, even if it's not the most entertaining, you at least want to pay attention to how the game master is doing what they're doing, how the players are doing what they're doing, how the roles look, when are roles being called for, and it gives you a general sense that again should feed back into the spirit and the sense of the rules, a spirit of the game. Once you have that down, then get your friends together and do a sample gameplay. It doesn't have to run perfect. It doesn't have to, flow great. You just tell your table up front, look, first time we're playing the game, guys, we might have to stop and pause the game a couple times here and there because none of us are familiar with this game yet, but we'll figure it out together. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then just have fun with it, okay? Pause the game as needed to look up a rule when it matters, when it's important, but otherwise, fall back on that sense of the game, the sense of how the mechanics work, the spirit of the game, fall back on that as you kind of go to for how to make judgment calls for roles and whatnot, because again, a lot of what happens at the table is going to come down to judgment calls based on your understanding of what the rules are supposed to reflect, okay? So these are the steps, okay? So again, get a feel of the system, understand the spirit of the game that you're trying to play, kind of have a basic understanding of the way the core mechanics work, then make a character, get a sense of any lore or setting material that you're going to need to have to run a session. And then if you can watch someone else play it, great. But otherwise, just jump right into it with your friends and have fun with it. And within a session or two, you're going to be comfortable and familiar with that game enough to just keep the campaign going, okay? So that's a short video, guys, but that's really all I have to say on it. Just one little quick point. There are some people online that give this advice that instead of just playing the game yourself, you should sit in on an actual game and just watch for a session before you enter it as a player or enter it as a game master. This is terrible advice. Nowhere ever, if I wanted to play Monopoly, would I be willing to go over and just watch other people play a game and just sit there and just watch other people have fun and just do what? Just stare at them? It's awkward and that's silly. And frankly, that's just a dumb thing to tell people. Don't do that. And frankly, if there's a group of people that won't let you play with them and they want you to sit there and watch them play for a session or two before you can enter the game, screw that. Go get a different group of players to play with. That table is not worth playing at. And if you die in the game session, this is a little side note, but if you die in the game session and you have to roll up another character really quick, the game master should incorporate you in either immediately or within 30 minutes of when you're ready to play again. There's none of this, we'll just wait hours until I can find an appropriate time to introduce you. Game masters, you better be better with improv that you can find a way to incorporate somebody sooner than a couple of hours of them just sitting down there doing nothing and twiddling their thumbs. Everybody's time is valuable, and the older I get, the more I appreciate people's time as being valuable, and it is not okay to waste people's time and expect people to just sit out and just twiddle their thumbs and watch you play a game. They're there to play too, and they took the night off, and they drove over to your house, and they're there to have fun. You better make sure you find a place for them in the game. First and foremost, a tabletop role-playing game is a game, okay? The story, the narrative, all that is second to the fact that you're all there together to have fun and to enjoy each other's company. And ignoring somebody or making them sit out or making them just watch as a spectator, that's not okay. That is just a terrible way to treat somebody. And if I was visiting somebody's house and that's the way they treated me, best believe I'm going to be making a scene and I'm going to say like, y'all are ridiculous. I'm out. And I encourage anyone to do the same if they find themselves in a similar situation, because that is just a terrible thing to do to somebody. What a terrible way to treat somebody. So anyway, guys, that's it for the how to get into a new game. It is not hard. It doesn't need to be a long video because it's not hard to do. And the more you build it up in your head, the more you try to make it into something that it's not, the more you try to make it a big deal and put it up on a pedestal, then it will become a bigger deal because you've made it so. But it is not hard to just buy a game, read over it, and then just play it and just fool around with it, and you'll figure it out, okay? And so I encourage you do that, okay? Don't get paralyzed into never taking that first step. Everyone at your table should game master and be a player, and that's a hard thing to get everybody to accept. But it is bad for the hobby when only one person out of a whole group wants to game master. It's bad for the hobby when only one game is ever played at the table. You need to diversify your gaming portfolio, and you also need to be cross-trained, both as a game master and as a player. If you've got, say, 3, maybe 4 players that you could show up regularly, have every one of them invest in a different game, a different system, and then take turns letting them have their time to game master their game. And then, if you do that and you do it in quarters or maybe, thirds of a year, every 3 months or every 4 months, you're going to swap off with a different system with a different game master. By the end of the year, you've went through several different game systems that you've now all become familiar with. Everyone has got some practice in the game master role. And I tell you what, that would be really healthy and very helpful both for your table and for the hobby in general. These are just my thoughts, guys. Tell me what you think below.